take off. It's fine with me. Then I go for a walk.
I had a really bad dream.
Okay. Then what did you do with it?
No, I woke up and I was what's going on, and
yeah.
it was really scary.
And then?
And just put it away and went back to sleep.
Yeah. So how do you view this? What do you make of it?
Well, it was concern of my childhood.
Yeah, not so much about the contents of your dream.
So what do you mean?
Yeah.
What did I?
You know, yesterday I said, may I see my dreams as dreams? I told you the reason why you want to see your dreams as dreams. You see, the problem is with these things. We try in general in the West. We try to kind of project more reality in the dreams that there is. So what one does in Buddhism, one does the other way around. One sees the strength of the mind that can produce a whole story, and you totally go with it, and you totally believe in it, and you take that into your daily life to see, this also is just like a dream. This also is not reality. Instead of putting reality into the dream, what we do in the West, we try to interpret it, and it's okay if you want to interpret your dreams, but what a dream is for is to show us the strength of the mind when nothing is there that can create a whole story. Based on what? It is based on something. Based on what? On past experiences. Or sometimes it's based on, the dream can also be based on, like, for example, if you have a lot of pain, but then you fall asleep. So when you fall asleep, the sense consciousness is somehow absorbed. So there's a bit less pain. Or let's say the pain is not really conscious anymore, but still the pain is there. So sometimes the mind can make a story about the pain, which is absolutely not true. But again, we totally believe in it. Or what happened to me one time, I was, when the Dalai Lama is teaching in India, so then in Switzerland it's like very early in the morning, like 4:30 or something like that. So we were in the middle of Tara retreat, so at 4:30 I would get up and kind of turn on the computer to listen to the teachings. Then I thought, I don't really have to sit, so I would I lied down again, and sure enough I fell asleep. So the voice was still there, the voice of the translator was still there, and I know him really well, it's Tenzin Zepak. So I started creating a dream with his voice, that the Dalai Lama was in Switzerland, and and Geshe, what's his name? Geshe Tekchok is there at the teachings, and he came to me and he said, look, after the teachings I'll come over, and I totally freaked out because I thought, if he comes, about 400 people will come, we can only accommodate 20, and the neighbors will again make a problem because all these people are coming. And so I thought, then again, the reasonable Anila in the dream said, come on, stop complaining, just go home and try to prepare as much as you can. And I came home, all the Kopan nuns were lying in the Gompa and sleeping there, and I told them, in the dream, I said, get up, you have to prepare, and they didn't move. They just went like, yeah, it's okay, come on, we just slept here and it's okay, and I got so angry. And then I thought, okay, they're not going to help me, okay, I have to do it alone. I went to the kitchen was full of boxes, I couldn't enter the kitchen. And so, also what was in the dream was something about, because I asked Tenzin Zepak, I said, what is Geshe-la drinking? What is Geshe-la drinking? Because you need to know what to give them, because not everybody, usually they drink hot water, but sometimes they also like tea. So I'm sure that His Holiness was talking about vegetarianism in the teaching. So I was going on about this vegetarian milk. Where do I get vegetarian milk from now? And then I woke up, I was really angry at the nuns. And then I woke up and I was really happy that it was just a dream. That I wasn't angry like at the nuns directly, like I didn't hurt anybody with my anger, because I always get angry in my dreams. That's usually my big thing. It's not so much fear, it's more anger. So like that. So then you see how the mind, based on something, this is all about emptiness, you see, there is a base. But our mind projects even what we think, and we think it's totally true, because why we think is true, because we say to somebody, yeah, but don't you see a dark blue car over there? And they go, yeah, I can see a dark blue car over there. But if you would be a dog, you wouldn't see a dark blue car over there. You would see something totally different. So that dark blue car over there is for human minds, because you have the common karma to see a dark blue car. But also the dark blue car doesn't exist for all beings out there, separate from the mind. The reflection comes into our mind, and then our mind makes something with it. So the basis for this dark blue car is the parts and particles and all these kind of things. But then our mind, because it knows car, makes a car out of it. The car doesn't exist out there. What exists is atoms and neurons and plurons, or I don't know what, and quarks now. Now they're going even further down, and quantum physics doesn't find anything. Just possibility. That's this very subtle basis, which is quantum physics, which is possibilities, is what is there. But it's empty. You cannot find even an atom that exists independently from its own side. Okay? Same as in the dream. In the dream we understand. Or if somebody is psychotic and they see, they see the doctor as an enemy, they want to poison me and all this. There also we understand how the mind can produce things according to, causes and conditions. Now we're all mad. This is the thing. As opposed to a fully awakened being, we're all crazy because we believe what is out there is true. We believe what I think is good is definitely good for everybody. It is not. We believe that good is totally independent. Good is depending on bad, because if you only want to keep the good and you want to get rid of the bad, well, you also get rid of the good, because good is totally dependent on bad. So we have to go beyond that by, as you said yesterday, by understanding reality. That things exist on, like each phenomena has two levels. The ultimate level, which is the quantum physics possibility, if you prefer to talk in scientific terms. And that's the ultimate level, the possibility for something to arise. And then the conventional level, dependent arising. Things exist depending on causes and conditions, but that's not enough. What else? Two more things. From the Mahayana point of view. Now again, if you are Vaibhashika or a Satrantika, then you would say, yeah. Whatever is impermanent exists out there, independent from a mind. The Madhyamikas would say no. So I just gave you the answer. What else do you need?
Mind.
A mind who perceives it and? Huh? And? Huh?
Somebody to see.
Yeah, a mind that sees it. That's what we just said. Somebody, a mind is saying. And a label. Car. Clock. For it to be a clock, you need a label. Otherwise, there's nothing from these parts over there that is clock. That says clock. Even if you put C-L-O-C-K, it still doesn't make the parts a clock. Everything that makes clock is not clock. This is why you can have a clock. If there would be a really existing clock from its own side, the clock could not exist. Because why? Try to give me a reason for that.
It's permanent.
Yeah, and what does that mean if it's permanent?
But it has always been.
Huh?
It has always been.
Exactly, very good. It would always have to have been a clock. And it always will have to be a clock. And things that function cannot exist that way. Whatever comes together is not itself, because it comes together through other things.
But then you said yesterday, so there is no eye as it appears to be an eye.
Yeah.
There is an eye, but not as it appears to be.
There is an eye that what? That exists?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what is?
Okay. Now be careful, because what you're trying to do is to replace that other eye with something else. Like okay, let's take Fata Morgana. We know it appears. Why does it appear? Is a Fata Morgana there when there is no mind to look at it?
No.
Ah, voila, this is it. So there we understand. Now, you understand it's an illusion. You understand it appears because heat, straight road, and all these kind of things. Plus the mind who sees it. Then it comes into existence. So do you then ask, okay, I see the water does not exist. But what does exist? Do you go like this? No. Huh?
It's a road.
Because we understand it's an illusion, and that's it. We let it be an illusion. We don't react to it. We see it appears. You see, the appearance is not the problem. The problem is that we believe in this eye. We take it as true. So then we try, at the beginning, okay, but what exists? Absence of that inherently existing eye, that exists. A combination of body and mind that changes moment by moment by moment by moment, that we give the label I. So that's the conventional I. So what are we made up of? We're having a body, that's the form, this we can feel, okay? Then we're having a mind. So the way the mind is explained is that it's not matter, it's not the brain. It uses the brain. Brain is part of the body, yeah, because it's matter. So we have 6 main consciousnesses that each one understands or can pick up its object. We have an eye consciousness that is connected to the physical eye, that understands form, shape and color. That's all it understands. See, the eye consciousness sees something here. So all the eye consciousness sees is shape and form, because that's like the mirror that reflects it. But then the mental consciousness comes in, and not the direct mental consciousness, but the to concepts. We start to, with mental factors, we start to kind of, oh yeah, it's a cup, or I like it, it's my cup, it's not my cup. We start to add all these things to concepts that the eye consciousness does not pick up. So we have these 6 consciousnesses: an eye consciousness, an ear consciousness, a tongue consciousness, a nose consciousness, and a body consciousness that feels. They understand their objects. So for that mind to function, it needs an outside object. It needs the moment before, because otherwise you cannot have mind. And it needs the organ for it to work. Do you see what I mean? Yeah?
Why the moment?
Okay, sound. In order to pick up sound, why the moment before? Because otherwise, where would it come from? It needs to be a continuity. Yeah? This is why they go, mind is beginningless. Because if you look at your body, also your body is actually beginningless. Everything that exists is beginningless, because your body, where does it come from?
Our mother body and father body.
Okay, where do they come from?
Their parents' body.
And where do they come from? And where do they come from? So you can go back to dinosaurs or plants or whatever, but there was always something there that transformed. A beginning, a real beginning would mean here's nothing, and then there's something. And so that goes for the body, but also for the mind. So in order to hear sound, yeah, you need an outside condition. You need an ear that functions, because if that ear would be closed, I wouldn't be able to hear it, because that one doesn't function anymore. This is why sometimes I don't understand what you're saying. Okay. And the moment of consciousness before, so that there can be a moment of ear consciousness. So that is the direct perceptions. You learned this in the Lorik, you remember? So the sense consciousnesses they pick up directly, and they would. This is what Satrantika says. They would pick it up in the right way. But then the mental consciousness, that's the sixth consciousness, where we don't have direct access to that. We have to go through concepts in order to, for the brain. So then already it's distorted. It makes it permanent. Like the cup I see, I don't see its impermanence. It makes it good or bad. It makes it I like, I don't like. So if it's I like, I have attachment. If I don't like, I have aversion. If I'm not interested, I have indifference, which is also very dull mind. But so one learns, when you learned about the mental factors, the positive mental factors, for example, there you have 3 positive mental factors, which are non-attachment, non-aversion, and non-ignorance. Do you remember, Tippy, that we had this huge argument about this? That you said, how can you have a mind with non-attachment? This is not a mind state. It's not a mental factor. Yeah, many years ago. Okay. That means you have a consciousness that picks something up which is free from attachment. Knows the object, holds it, but doesn't have non-interest, like indifference, doesn't have attachment, and doesn't have aversion, but is interested in the object. So we have quite a few objects like this. Like, for example, this cup. I'm not terribly interested in this cup. It's not mine, even if it would be mine. But I can explore it, I can look at it, and there is these at least 2 mental factors present: non-attachment, non-aversion. Interest is there. Non-ignorance is difficult, because then I would have to see it as being empty. So non-ignorance, I can produce it through concepts, but not directly yet.
So babies are more open.
We don't know about babies. You see, do you remember having been a baby? And anyway, what babies do? Again, so if you go to babies, they're more open. Yeah, they're different. They're not so conditioned yet. Like, for example, if you tell a baby, because I was looking after a baby once, and I had volunteered, but I didn't really want to do it because I wasn't feeling well. So I said to the parents and to the older daughter, I said, yeah, you can go, it's okay, I stay home and watch after. Erwan was his name. So I wasn't feeling well, so I hoped he would sleep and would be good, but he wasn't. He started screaming and crying and all this, and I really had to look after him. So I gave him all his toys, and I started to read. So he wanted my book, and I tried to explain. He was maybe a year old or something like this. I said, look, this is mine. These are yours. It didn't make any difference. The moment I started to say, because then it was still Rita, so I said, look, this, Rita, this, Erwan. I don't know if it's just coincidence, but he really stayed and started playing with the toys. They don't know I and others yet so well. They react, for them they're not I, for them they're the name that we're giving them. Yeah? So they're different, but still they also have they also recognize objects, of course. Babies? They don't have aversion when they go like, ooh. I still remember a baby when we had the first time we put a mandarina thing in her mouth. The face she made was like, ooh. They don't have aversion?
When they see an object the first time, they don't put a label on the object, so they're very interested in the object, and they don't have yet.
I'm not sure they have likings and dislikings, especially with taste. When they see, because maybe the eye consciousness is not so developed yet, how do babies explore the world? With their eyes? No, with the mouth. Because why? That's the first sense that is developed because of food. So this is how they explore the world. And they're definitely, they put it in the mouth, some they throw away, and some others they keep. Especially sand when you go to the beach. You have to be really careful that they're not eating it. Yeah. So they're different. But anyway, we're not so much studying babies. We're studying our own mind. Because our own mind is the only mind we can understand. But what exactly babies think or feel or do, This we don't know. Yeah.
What's the word aversion in Hebrew?
When you dislike something.
Yeah.
When you dislike something. Then that goes into, if you're still together with it, that goes into anger. And if you can't get rid of it, it can go into hate. And usually aversion and anger is usually a wish to get rid of it, no matter how. Kill it, throw it, be really horrible to it so that it disappears. Yeah? So this is anger. So it's not really frustration, it's really the wish to harm when we talk about anger. Okay? Okay, how did we go to all this? Oh, the eye, something. Dreams. The dreams. So this eye that seems to appear, all we have to recognize that it doesn't exist. We don't need to put something else there. Because when you said the observer, that's what? That's awareness. We don't need an eye to be aware. You don't need to have a feeling of I to seek up. Yeah? Like when have you heard about 5 aggregates? 5 aggregates. What makes a person? Form.
It's like the body, the mind that observes, the mind that has the feelings.
Okay. Form, this is the body. Sensations, maybe better than feelings, because with feelings it's like we think it's emotions and all that. It's not emotions. Feelings. The feelings are of 3 kinds. Pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. That's it. So this is a mental factor. Feelings. A mental factor then can pick up pleasant, or that recognizes pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Then we have a mental factor of discrimination. It's usually called recognition is better. Recognizing that this is different from that. So it's usually in the older translation it's called discrimination. It's a bit tricky, that word, because discrimination for us is immediately this I don't like, I discriminate. But discrimination, what the word actually means, is being able to see the difference, that's all. So there is differences. So that's another mental factor. Then we have compositional factors, which are all the other 49 mental factors. There we have 51 mental factors. Some of them are omnipresent, so that they're always there with each moment of mind. Like these main consciousnesses, they need these mental factors as helpers to be able to function. Okay? So 5 of them are always there. Remember them? The ones who did Lorik with Venerable Yönten? Long time ago. Yeah. Intention, like the mind goes there. So the intention doesn't mean I want to go and see the cup. It's a mental factor that directs the mind to the object. Like for example, you hear something, the mind goes. Or when you sit in meditation, then there is your awareness is on your breath. Then there's a conversation outside, and whether you want or not, the mind goes out. The awareness goes out. It goes to that object there. So this is in order to pick up an object. Yeah, there's many objects, but we need a mental factor that directs the mind there. Somebody who's autistic, they don't have this mental factor. I mean, I don't know exactly, but because they pick up too many things, they don't have these filters that we have. So this is why they have a totally different world from what we have. So again, an autistic person is a very good example how the outside world is depending on the mind and not on what is out there. Okay? So, so intention, then there's contact. So there's a mental factor of being able to make contact with the outside object. Then there's sensation. When you make contact, is that it's either pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. The feeling that comes up, the sensation, whether you want or not. This is what happens. If you are aware of something, either you're indifferent, like you see it, but you don't label it, and there's no thoughts about it, or there is, oh wow, pleasant, or ooh, unpleasant. It goes automatically. We don't need an eye to do that. These mental factors, they do these jobs. Yeah? And then you have, again, you have discrimination, you see the difference, and then you have mental engagement. Like the mind stays there. The mind kind of needs a factor to stay there, which is called mental engagement, holding the object. And then cup comes about. And in each moment of mind, these 5 mental factors are there. Automatically, not because we want, or because it's a will. Then you have determining factors, then you have positive mental factors, 11, 26 main negative factors, and 20 secondary negative factors, okay? And so they each have a function, like for example, mental factor of faith, trust. Makes you go in a direction even though we're not so sure if it's where it will lead us, but there's faith and trust. There's a mental factor of aspiration. That mental factor of aspiration allows us to make effort. I used to climb mountains, so there's the aspiration to go to the top, and there's a lot of effort. Yeah? If you don't have that aspiration, you go for a walk for half an hour and then you go like, what's the point? I'm going back home and sit in front of my TV or something like that. The more aspiration you have to learn something, to do something, the easier it will be for you to attain it. You see, if we would have as much aspiration to attain to the awakening as Usain Bolt and Roger Federer, all these kind of sports people have to win a gold medal, we would all be enlightened already. Because what do? They give up their youth totally, like what usually young people do, movies and drugs, alcohol, trying out things, going for holidays, nothing. I had a schoolmate, her mother wanted her to be a figure skating person, how do you call these artists, athlete, whatever. Every holiday, every 3 minutes she had to go on the ice. She became Swiss champion, but not much further than that. And all the others, we went for holiday. We had a very nice and relaxed time. So this is, if you have this kind of aspiration for awakening, I still don't have it, then we do nothing else but that. And the thing is, it's her mother who wanted that. She didn't really want it. But imagine if somebody like Federer, I know he was from very small, he was very, very good at playing tennis. We have somebody else who's very good at skiing. They showed videos of him when he was like this old, and the way he skis like a pro already. So this is about, he must have done that before in previous lives. So then these kids, they have a lot of interest to do it. They don't need to be encouraged. Or musicians also, when they start very, very small. You don't need to go, have you done your exercise? They take whatever instrument they have and they just go ahead and do it. So this is the aspiration that then would allow us to make the effort in order to develop a tamed mind, in order to develop sustained mindfulness, which we need in order to tame the mind. And then with this sustained mindfulness, we can then develop concentration. With the concentration, we can develop wisdom. So that's a mental factor of aspiration. So this is why always at the beginning, I don't do it so much with you, but because you should really do it yourself, before you start meditation, before you start practicing, when you get up in the morning, I must attain enlightenment as quickly as possible. So this is something that we're not grown up with, so we have to develop that. And how do we develop it? We come to that today through the 5 forces, by becoming familiar with that thought. You see, we're very familiar with the thought of, I want to be happy. I don't need to wake up in the morning and tell myself, I want to be happy. The aspiration is there, it's an automatic pilot, isn't it? So we try to avoid whatever makes us unhappy, and we try to get whatever makes us happy. We don't need concepts for that. So then all we do, that very, very small motivation that we have, I want to be happy, all we do is to expand it over all sentient beings. And then it's bodhicitta. And it becomes bodhicitta when we know, as long as I keep having these mental factors of ignorance or wrong views, aversion, attachment, desire, greed, jealousy, deluded pride, deluded doubt, all this, as long as I keep this with the main cause of wrong view, I will not be able to fulfill that wish. Because the wish is for lasting happiness. It's not for temporary happiness. Do you remember what I said yesterday about if we would be okay with temporary happiness, we would be the happiest people in the world, because all of us from time to time are happy. We would accept samsara's reality as it is. Yeah, there's no security, there's no certainty anywhere. Sometimes happy, sometimes sad. It's okay. The world wouldn't look the way it looks. Why does the world look the way it looks? Why?
Our deluded mind.
Huh?
Our deluded mind.
Yeah,
It's a search for
but which part of it?
The negative mental factors.
Huh?
The negative mental factors. I mean, the aversions, the greediness, the people grasping for to
Yeah.
secure their happiness in their
Yeah, because we want to fulfill that deep-sitting wish of lasting happiness. So then we make air conditioners and think, oh, when the temperature is right, I'll be happy. So you will just be more comfortable than when it's hot, that's all. But you will still not be happy. Then we start to move away from a place because our neighbors, I'm not talking about Palestinians, okay? I'm only talking about neighbors here. Your Jewish neighbors, okay? So let's say you don't like these kind of neighbors, and it happens that we say, well, you know, it's really terrible. I want to move. I can't live with those guys because we're fighting all the time. I know situations like this. Can you relate to that? We don't need to go into big political kind of situations. So we think if I move away, I'll be happy. Or you fall in love with somebody and you think if I own this person and we are a couple, I'll be happy forever after. After a little while you go like, you know, if I can get rid of this person, then I will be really happy. Totally forgetting that you were also not completely happy when you didn't have this person, nor completely unhappy. You were able to function quite well. So it's because of that wish to have lasting happiness, this is why the world looks the way it is, because we mistake pleasure and comfort for happiness. You see, we all know that happiness is in the mind, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes or no? Everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Do we know that? Yet, the blame is always going outside. When you were unhappy, how many times did your mind say, oh, you're not happy because you don't know about reality. You don't know emptiness. You're not happy because you don't know how to laugh properly. You're not happy because you have too much self-cherishing. How many times when we're unhappy do we tell ourselves these things? How many times?
I actually do admit that when I'm unhappy it's because something is wrong with my state of mind.
Okay, that's good. And then what do you do?
I'm trying to find solutions to change my state of mind.
Yeah, what do you do?
Well, now it's different than before.
It doesn't matter. So what do you do now?
Is trying to see how I'm blessed with what I have now. Trying to look outside and
Okay. Can I pick on you a little bit? I'm blessed with what I have now. What does that mean when we talk like this?
What will happen if it's finished?
Huh?
What will happen if it ends?
To me it sounds it comes from somebody else. So you better be grateful because you got something. You're blessed with something. Kind of, yeah. Do you see what I mean? It's your karma who created what you have. So it's you. It doesn't come from anybody else. It doesn't come from God or Jesus or some other higher force. Yeah. So we deserve it. that's fine. Because the mind created it. But then also when something bad happens, when negative things happen, we can also say, oh, negative karma ripening. Yeah. What did you do before?
I was blaming the outside.
Yeah, exactly. So now, but you see, when we go like, oh, there's something wrong in my mind, you have to be careful that then you're not starting to hate yourself. Oh, it's my fault. Because then again, the ego has this, self-cherishing has won the battle. Because it says, yeah, you're really bad. Yeah. It's your fault, you're really bad. So we have to be quite skillful. I think it's a good way is when we feel like down and depressed and no good and all this, then we can start to think, well, I have a choice. I don't have to feel like this. After a while of practicing, when you're grumpy, then just by telling yourself, I don't have to be grumpy. And very often, without even having to think about all the things you have, but that's a good method, it's okay, it lifts up.
So, to me,
You see, the problem is me, this false I, me, identifies with these states of mind. So you cannot get rid of the state of mind without getting rid of yourself totally. So this is why it doesn't work. Yeah? The moment you identify with these mind states, you make them permanent. They become you. So you don't give them the chance to change. Okay? And they become very solid, and we totally believe in them, and we go like, I'm grumpy. But you don't have to be grumpy.
so,
Gosh, we should get on with the text, otherwise we'll never get anywhere here. Yeah.
should we talk about it later?
No.
So this is something that I'm grappling with because I don't understand how to do this skillfully. It often causes a lot of frustration because I look and I say, okay, you don't have to be sad now. You don't have to be. But then a moment goes by and I still am.
Yeah.
So I'm not doing something right. So I'm not practicing. So I'm not being skillful.
Oh, we give you the theory, okay? Until that works, it takes many, 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 many years. I've been practicing for 25 years, and I'm a professional because I don't do anything else. I do have time. I put a lot of time in my practice. I go to a lot of teachings. I give a lot of teachings. It still doesn't work. Why? Totally. I'm saying, I didn't say it goes away. I said it lifts up. These negative states of mind, when we have had a direct perception of emptiness, only then they will go. And karma ripens on the level of habits also. See, so whatever moment of sadness is not a negative state of mind, by the way. I don't know why people always think sad is not good.
Or any other.
Yeah, don't put sad or shame or embarrassment into negative states of mind. It's really good. Huh?
Shame is why? How is shame not guilt?
In order to change, we need to feel ashamed.
You feel guilt.
Yeah, okay. No, it depends how you use the term. Okay. It's unfortunately in the Buddhist tradition there's no word for guilt. There's only word for shame. So this is why I'm using it. When I do something by habit or like this, and then I have a feeling of that one we need, because otherwise I'll never change. I'll never change negative habits if I don't feel ashamed. But you can call it whatever you want to call. Can I just, the sensation of hot, wanting to hide, not being able to confess immediately, these kind of things. This mental factor that manifests in such a way, whatever name you want to give it, it's fine. Do you see what I mean? So this is why this is necessary to go on the path, because otherwise, you see, the mind has a lot of negative habits that not only doesn't make us suffer, and not only does it make us happy, but it leads to more suffering. And we allow the mind just to go there. And then these habits become deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. So depression is an exaggerated sadness, where you are the center of the universe and you're the worst of all. You cannot do anything, you've never done anything good, You're totally alone in that black hole down there. Nobody likes you. You don't like anybody. So that is exaggerated sadness. It's a form of anger towards ourselves. Usually it comes when we're not the way we would like to be, and it comes when we don't get what we want. And it comes with tiredness also. So the first thing, if you have a lot of depression, make sure you sleep enough. Instead of spending hours and hours on the computer, on the telephone, or on the TV. Actually, they say, if you have problems sleeping, make sure that at least 1 or 2 hours before you go to sleep, you're not looking at the screen. Because that light of the screen, it activates things in the brain that prevents you from going to sleep. And now that the telephones explode also when you charge them, do not keep it in the bedroom. Put it somewhere where...
But depression is a negative state of mind, or it's
yeah, I think so. Because it totally covers. Again, it's not in the list of the 51 mental factors. Would you see it as positive?
Well, it depends if it urges you to come and find solutions
Yeah.
against it.
Exactly. But even anger is, if you look at this, if you look at this way, it can lead to something good. Anger also can lead to something good. It can show me where I am. If somebody really pushes my buttons, it shows me where I stand. It shows me that I have to work with it. But it's still a negative mental state because it exaggerates. Depression also exaggerates. If you just talk about sadness, the sadness that we cannot live our potential, the sadness that people are, when we say there's so much injustice in the world, like from the karmic point of view, there is no injustice. But the sadness that comes by seeing when other people who wouldn't need it at all, when they start to exploit others, but they don't need it, they have enough already, that kind of sadness. To see how people create more causes for more sufferings for themselves. Yeah, that kind of things. But seeing, knowing about karma, it doesn't mean that when you see somebody suffer and you could help them, you go like, well, but it's their karma. It doesn't mean that that you wouldn't stop somebody from doing negative karma when you can stop them. It doesn't mean that. Knowing that it's law of cause and effect by saying, oh, then I just let go, it's none of my business, He wants to hit that person. It's this person's karma to be hit. Let him hit her. If you can prevent it, you should.
You
But
can
if you-
change a karma.
Huh?
You can change it.
No, you cannot change, but if I could stop somebody to create more negative karma, if I have the power. No? Then karma is not created. Karma needs to be created. The seed needs to be created. This is what we said yesterday. By a mental factor, which is either positive or negative, by an object, which is another person, by an action, you need to do the action, and by finishing the action. Then a karmic imprint is created. Only then. Karma doesn't fly around in the air and then it just enters your mind. Karma needs to be created. Do you see what I mean? So if I can stop you from stealing something from there, like you open the box and you take out the money and I see it and I say, look, I don't think that's very skillful what you're doing here because you're actually not harming anybody but yourself. You don't create the negative karma of stealing. Or do you think you created?
You asked me? You did
Yeah.
something.
Are you creating the negative karma of stealing?
Yes, I'm creating if I take.
No, but if I'm there and I tell you no, it's not very skillful. Yeah, so this is what I mean. If you can prevent somebody from harming somebody else or from stealing, killing and all these kind of things, by all means do. But if you cannot prevent them, don't get angry. Start to develop compassion by seeing this person will then again become the